China has a scary new weapon that was a total secret until now. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell, and I have some exciting news. I've been making a push to get to 2 million subscribers, and over the past few weeks, there's already been over 10,000 new subscribers. Just a bit more to go. So if you're watching and you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button now. When we get to 2 million, we'll do a special live stream for you where we'll do something we've never done before. So again, hit that subscribe button. Now, on with the show. So China is in the midst of one of the largest military buildups in history. And now, we've just discovered a previously until now secret stealth warship. This new stealth corvette was recently spotted during sea trials. It's a groundbreaking new addition to the PLAN, the People's Liberation Army Navy. The new warship is supposedly a next-generation corvette, a successor to the existing Type 056 corvettes, which NATO refers to as the Jiangdao class. Now, there's some ongoing debate among some analysts as to whether this ship is actually built for the PLAN or was built for another country which purchased it. Yep, this isn't the only type of corvette that insecure middle-aged guys like to buy and show off. In any case, one longtime observer of China's defense and airspace development said, "This ship is an undesignated comprehensive test platform. In other words, a vessel that can test and eventually possibly utilize various kinds of weapon systems." Official details about the corvette remain scarce and could for some time to come. But leaked photos and reports are giving us some insight into how the ship could be used to advance Beijing's naval agenda. That includes the hull design of the ship, which some analysts say incorporate extensive measures to reduce radar, optical, acoustic, and infrared signatures, which, as the stealth part of the name might indicate, means it's much more difficult to detect. It's harder to find than a decent explanation for why China is on the UN Human Rights Council. Just the fact that the CCP developed this ship goes a long way in showing how much more advanced its military technology sector has gotten over the past few decades. And given how Western powers have either cut defense spending or let it stagnate, we should all be worried. And as an American, I don't know whether I should be impressed or angry that China actually got me to say not enough of the budget is going to the military. But the CCP has gone beyond just this one corvette. It's building another next-generation vessel, this time a massive amphibious assault ship. In terms of sheer numbers, over the years, China has surpassed the US to become the world's biggest navy. Now, granted, many of these ships are much smaller and less capable than the ones in the US fleet. But despite its economic hurdles, China is winning against the US when it comes to shipbuilding. According to CSIS, the Center for Strategic and International Studies, China's new Type 076 vessel represents a substantial leap forward in the ability of the PLAN to project power further from China's shores. Power is my least favorite thing China projects, besides its insecurities. The ship is still under construction and is known as part of the Yulan class. The Yulan class is known as an LHA ship that stands for Landing Helicopter Assault. New satellite imagery of China's big Changxing Island shipbuilding base is giving defense analysts and the world a greater view into just how capable China's military-industrial complex now is compared to decades past. The LHA ship under construction will eventually be the largest amphibious assault ship in the world. Satellite imagery from July 4th shows that its flight deck spans approximately the equivalent of 3 US football fields. The ship is significantly bigger than its US or Japanese counterparts. Like many other amphibious ships, the Type 076 will be capable of carrying 1,000 Marines along with drones, helicopters, and other aircraft. But because it's much bigger, it has even more capacity to carry more aircraft in its main hangar, and has more space on its flight deck to launch aircraft. And just like that corvette we mentioned, it has several technological advances too. For one, it has a catapult. No, not that kind. This kind. A system for launching fixed-wing aircraft such as drones and airplanes. At least it seems like it probably will, since it features a likely trench for a catapult system, which makes it unique among other amphibious assault ships. Fixed-wing aircraft are faster than helicopters with a longer range and the ability to carry heavier payload weapons. So this could be a bad sign regarding its capabilities. That catapult will probably be similar to this electromagnetic aircraft launch system, which is used by Ford-class aircraft carriers in the US. Basically, it uses a gigantic magnet to hurl planes into the sky. So far, only China and the US have this technology. But wait, there's more. The satellite imagery also shows that the Type 076 will have an aircraft elevator on each side of the vessel to help lift aircraft from the internal hangar to the flight deck, a major advancement over the Type 075, which is another indication that it will be able to launch the aforementioned fixed-wing aircraft. But because the vessel also has a lack of elevators obstructing the runway, along with a wider flight deck and its particular catapult design, that means the PLAN might even be planning to make it capable of launching manned aircraft as well. This would make it basically its own class of warship, somewhere between an aircraft carrier and an LHA-class ship. It's also capable of assisting in amphibious assaults, with a floodable well deck on its stern allowing for launching amphibious vehicles to conduct ship-to-shore operations. Makes you wonder who they're planning on attacking. If only there were some super obvious clue they aggressively leave every other week. The timeline for this ship's construction is unknown, although some analysts speculate it might be ready to be launched into the waters by early next year. Of course, that's assuming testing in the current pace of construction continues and is successful. And while China has a reputation for bad construction, that's because of corruption. When the CCP wants a functional warship, that's a different matter. Of course, it'll take the CCP more time to build an entire fleet of these new corvettes and Type 076 vessels. But the West and its allies need to be vigilant and step up the pace of their own military buildup. While these ships are unlikely to fundamentally change the balance of power in the Indo-Pacific, it could make it more difficult for the US and its partners in the region to maneuver. Luckily, the West is ramping up its weapons manufacturing and military awareness, particularly in light of the wars in Europe and the Middle East. A record number of NATO allies are now hitting their defense spending target during the war in Ukraine. NATO is also broadening its cooperation with allies in the Indo-Pacific. Joint military drills between the US and its allies are also becoming more frequent in the Indo-Pacific. So it isn't as if the US is not aware of China's military buildup. The US is also pushing the Netherlands and Japan to restrict more semiconductor making equipment to China, which might get in the way of the CCP's military buildup. But the US is only now beginning to realize it's already at war with China. So China has a pretty devastating head start. Now, as I said at the beginning, China Uncensored is close to getting 2 million subscribers. But we have a major problem. I've heard from so many of you that YouTube has secretly unsubscribed you, multiple times in some cases. Now, I can't say for sure why they're doing that. Maybe it's because Google has a lot on the line in China. But this really hurts the show. It means fewer people watch, which means fewer ads, which means we're running out of money to make the show. YouTube would have run us out of business years ago if it weren't for the support of viewers like you on patreon.com/China Uncensored. All it takes is $1 an episode, and you can even set a monthly limit so you could give just $1 a month. Anything you can contribute is already a lot more than we're getting from YouTube. Again, that's patreon.com/China Uncensored. And as a thank you, I'll answer your questions or comments at the end of these episodes. Today's comes from Paul Pasakalu. Hiya, Chris. China seems to be in a catch-22 situation as regards Russia. On the one hand, they don't want their newfound Muscovite vassal to collapse. On the other, they don't want to provoke the anger of the West by propping Putin up too much, since Russia is an increasingly irrelevant economy compared to the US, EU, and G7, etc. Where is the point at which the Chinese cash out on helping out their friends to the northwest? There have been many indications of late of Beijing complying with Western sanctions and restricting drone exports to Russia. Thanks for the question, Paul. So I'm not sure Beijing sees the situation that way. I think they love having the leverage they do over Russia and don't see the US as really stepping up. Let me explain what I mean. Back in March 2022, Biden had a call with Xi Jinping. The president detailed what the implications and consequences would be if China provides material support to Russia. That's a pretty serious red line, and China has absolutely crossed it. But instead of sanctions, the US changed its tune. They started talking about lethal aid to Russia. If China gave lethal aid, that would be the red line. Well, this May, UK intelligence found evidence China was supplying lethal aid to Russia. And the US response was, no they aren't. So you can see that red line keeps moving because the US doesn't actually want to deliver consequences to China. And Xi Jinping knows it. That's why when Xi met Putin in 2023, he said, right now there are changes the likes of which we haven't seen for 100 years. And we are the ones driving these changes together. Clearly, Xi and Putin view the US as weak, and they will be the driver of changes for a new era. So China will continue being a threat to global democracy, fancy new warships and all, because they aren't getting the pushback they should. Thanks for your question and your support, Paul. And as I said, Patreon support is the only thing keeping this show going. So please click that orange button to join me on Patreon. And here's a video I want to show you from my other show, Deep Thoughts While Gaming. Japan is in danger if China invades Taiwan. So they came out with Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail, which encourages players to defend the game's island nation from a sinister evil. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.